Hello and welcome to our stream, everyone. This is so exciting. I am just going to bring everyone on board with us. Let me get Svetlina on board to get us started here. And I'm also going
Hello.
to bring Danny on board from London as well.
Hi, everyone.
Fantastic. Hello, Danny. Hello, Svetlina. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So let's take everyone through our agenda for this evening. So we're going to start by welcoming you all, which we're going to go into more detail on now, and a little introduction. Then we're going to jump into the panel with our authors, starting with some introductions, and then we'll go on to Q&A and a conclusion together. I'm hearing a wee bit of echo, so if anyone is not speaking, please make sure you mute yourselves. So I will just pass over to Svetlina to quickly introduce herself.
Well, thank you. I am Svetlina. I am a UX leader in UX. And also I am chapter lead of Ladies That UX Amsterdam, which I think we're going to tell you about in a sec.
We are. Thank you, Svetlina. And Danny, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Danny. I'm on the committee for Ladies That UX in London. We run events kind of every few months around London, and I'm a senior interaction designer myself. Looking forward.
Thank you, Danny. And my name is Fiona. I am a steward for the Let's Talk UX in Brighton. We used to be Ladies That UX, and we've kind of gone off to do something else, but that is cool. We're still friends, and that is great. We're very happy to collaborate today. So let us go on to tell you a little bit more about what we're going to talk about today. So we are this evening talking about UX skills for business. And these are some of the key words that came out of a sort of word cloud that one of my co-organizers kindly put together for us. So we're talking about objective, measurable, skills, learning, communication, but most of all, we're talking about business and UX. So that brings us on to what do we do at the respective kind of groups of UX that are represented today. So Let's Talk UX Brighton is a group that elevates the voices of women and non-binary and unrepresented gender folks who are essentially looking to gain a foothold in tech and sort of further their careers. So we're all about supporting people in the Brighton and surrounding areas. So we have people from all across Sussex who come to our events. Next up, we're going to hear from Svetlina in Amsterdam.
Oh, sorry. Muting there. It was a bit of a thing. Hello. Yes, indeed, Ladies That UX Amsterdam. Our mission is to empower women to claim their voices and roles in the product creation process. We have people of all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of ages. Everyone is very welcome to our community. We organize events just like this one, in person and online. And we love collaborating with all kinds of other chapters and organizations. Please join us if you've not joined us yet.
Thank you, Svetlina. And Danny, I think the next slide is yours. Tell us about Ladies That UX London.
Yes, sure. So similar to in Amsterdam and Brighton. So in London, we run events across different parts of London, empowering women in the London UX community. So to collaborate, share experiences, support each other. We do a variety of events, all kind of looking at different subject matters, and also aimed at, we do some that are more focused, people wanting to come into UX, some more focused on the leadership lens, some somewhere in the middle of that journey. Do kind of in-person events. And our big thing, I guess, also is to always try and keep them as inclusive as possible and have kind of free events in spaces that are offered up by the kind of wider UX community. Very community-led in that way as well. That's a bit about us.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Danny. And today our event is hosted by myself and Svetlina. So we're going to be asking the questions, but Danny, do chip in later on. We're very happy to hear from you. And also we have a couple of audience participation moments today, one of which is a surprise and we only just learned about it. So we're pretty pumped about that. Okay, so we are going to move us on to the next section. So we'll wave goodbye to Danny for now, and then we're going to start to actually meet our authors, which is so exciting. So join me and Svetlana as we move on to the main presentation.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. It's great. Okay, so let's replace and make sure that we're getting everybody we want to have on screen. So we'll welcome first Torrey, we will welcome Kim, and we will welcome Maya, and we will make our slides a little bit bigger while we do some introductions. So we're going to start by hearing from Torrey. So here is Torrey's introduction. And Torrey, I think you can tell us a little bit more verbally as well, and folks can read this if they would like to.
Hi, folks. I'm Torrey Podmajersky. I run a small consultancy called Catbird Content, and I've been a content designer, UX writer, and other things for many years now. And I wrote the book Strategic Writing for UX. I'm based in the Pacific Northwest in the USA, and I'm super happy to be with you here today.
Thank you so much, Torrey. And next up, we're going to hear from Maya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elise Joseph-Goteiner, and I'm the founder of Velocity Av. I am a UX leader and researcher, and I'm usually in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I'm currently in the Bay Area. It was a last-minute trip, so I'm joining you from Oakland, California. Very excited to be here and talk about the book and learn about you all.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Maya. And yeah, enjoy your time in the Bay Area. Sounds like a cool little holiday there. And next up, we have Kim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Matz. I'm also based on the West Coast in Seattle, not too far from Torrey in the Pacific Northwest. And super excited to be here today. My background is in information architecture and UX strategy. I've worked as a consultant from very small nonprofits to very large global tech companies and everything in between. And I am just starting my own agency focused on experience strategy called 3 Lines.
Thank you so much, Kim. And I can notice already that folks are already scanning our Ask a Question QR code on the top right-hand side. That's so exciting to get audience participation rolling so early in the session. So let's get rid of those slides and see your lovely faces. Right, so next up, we're going to be asking you one of our very first questions. So while I ask the question, I'm going to make it full screen. And then what I will do is then return to all of you. So set the scene for us, Torrey, Kim, and Maya. What led you to start writing UX skills for business strategy? And how did you come together as a group of co-authors?
Oh, I think I should probably take that one. What do you think?
Okay. I think so. Kick us off.
So I had been working for a little while on this content design skills project where I said, wait a minute, people don't know what we do. Our bosses sometimes don't know what we do as content designers and what kind of difference we can make in the industry and for our products and for our businesses, for our organizations, for our teams, etc. So I had done this project to gather together lots of different skills that content designers used and started mapping those to the business impacts that those skills made. And then I was like, wait a minute, we could do this for all UX. And by we, I mean, I would need a lot of help. And a couple of friends of mine, Winslow Hermson and Michael Gervais, both had been talking at an Agile conference about wine pairing guides, like you do, and saying, what if there was a wine pairing guide to match up the Agile skills with the business impacts they made so people could choose those skills more wisely? And I said, that's what I want to do. I want this reference material. And oh gosh, it needs to be way bigger than content design. And I knew Kim, I've known Kim for many, many years, and I knew her to be an incredible deep thinker and careful, like exact thinker, but with this UX generalist and agency background that was just magnificent. And I knew Maya from working at Google, that she had this great big UX research and UX leadership brain. And I said, oh, hey, ladies, would you do this thing with me? And they both said yes. So I didn't have to think about anybody else. So then we made a book together.
I'm so glad you just explained the wine reference, because I was like, why is there a wine glass on the front cover? So now I know the answer. That's amazing. Thank you so much for explaining that. And thank you, Torrey. That is just a great origin story. So next up, I'm going to pass you over to Svetlana for our next set of questions.
Thank you very much. And Torrey, I am stealing this move. I'm going to show it to the audience in a bit. So yeah, I mean, how did you all go about deciding which impact measures to include? I can imagine there were plenty. How did you select or prioritize which ones to choose? And do you have any personal favorites or go-tos that you found effective?
Great question. Which of you wants to take this one? Kim, Maya?
I can go ahead and kick it off, but Maya, I know your work shaped a lot of the impacts too, so maybe we can tag team on this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think well, again, Torrey came to us and had been kind of thinking about this framework, and actually she and I met at, we were attending the same conference here in Seattle where she was presenting on some of this work. So she had a preliminary foundation kind of thinking about that included impacts. But then we started kind of harvesting ideas about impacts from our own experiences working with clients in different industries, as well as just doing broader research about UX and customer experience to kind of fill in different impacts. And there were some certainly where we considered them. I remember there was one that came up around customer intimacy was kind of an impact or maybe a metric that the three of us weren't that familiar with. So we dug a little deeper and did some research and thought, well, where does this fit? And really found it to be a more outdated kind of reference that didn't seem to be current. So definitely like relevance and currency were factors that helped us prioritize what to include in our impacts. Yeah, I do have a couple personal favorites, but maybe Maya, go ahead and
I'll jump in and then we'll maybe go around the room and share our personal favorites. I think there were categories that were easier for us to brainstorm around and think about initially, like the user category, the product category. The financial category felt like one that a lot of people talk about when they dip their toes into measurement, and a lot of teams have struggled with. And so that felt critical. I think as we talked more, we realized that the operational category has been really becoming so much more central to conversations around building UX teams. And now, today, we started the book 2 years ago, but it's even more important talking about operations for UX teams because of AI. And so there's sort of a, I think it's very grounding that we included that category. There's much more that has even developed in that category, I think, since we've written this book. Things are happening so fast. But we were trying to really take a holistic approach to business in defining these categories. And as Kim said, there were some nuances that were really challenging where we spent hours, writing and deliberating around, well, there are so many user impacts. Which ones do we need to include? And which ones can we combine with others? And so that, that was a process that was messy, very messy. and where there was a lot of, conversation and deep thinking. And as Kim said, we also spoke to many leaders and individual contributors to understand how they're thinking about their impact. One of the things that came out of that was, validating the need for this book, that it is so hard to talk about your impact, and it is hard to disentangle sort of the bigger impact that we believe we make and we feel, and then how we show it in the products and the experience in the organization. And now I'll pass it to Torrey before we share our favorite.
I think you both have really covered it. We did some basic research of just how do other people talk about business impact? How does the business industry talk about business impact? And getting it into categories that we could wrap our heads around. I think almost every category at some point reduced to almost like one. And then we were like, no, that's too confusing. We have to split them out and do different things. It was really a process. But to get to sort of my favorite or my go-to, I would say I've got two go-to ones. One is reducing support costs. And that is one of my favorite go-tos inside, especially enterprise companies and mature products, because they're not looking for necessarily big financial wins through product changes, right? Not every product needs a whole bunch of changes to keep making money. Great. But to reduce the UX debt and increase the supportability of that product and increase the quality of that support, there are so many things we can do in UX land to make a real dollar value difference, or pound value difference, or euro value difference through our work. And I love that. My other favorite is enabling organizational alignment, our first management impact. And that is core to so much of what we do, because we're not just making designs and generating artifacts. We're getting everybody on the same page and providing a receipt for that alignment. So now that I've hogged it with two of the 41 different impacts, Kim, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Torrey. So I want to talk about two also. One is we call extracting, oh no, I just lost it. Extracting insights. Oh my gosh, my
Page
brain.
37.
Extracting insights to inform strategy. Sorry, it was right there a minute ago. And I'll talk about why. Earlier in my career, I did a lot of usability testing in my practice, as well as design. And for those of you who do evaluative testing, you learn a lot of things that aren't necessarily relevant to what you are testing, what you are trying to evaluate the usability of. There's all this other information that can come through, and some of that information can be really important in a different context. Maybe you might learn something about how difficult something is to support, or I remember working with one group where we discovered that whole offices of people were sharing one user login because logging into my client's application was so difficult. And this wasn't reported, it wasn't known, it was way beyond the scope of what we were immediately looking to solve. And yet that was a significant barrier that we identified, that we were able to take to a different team on the other side of the organization for them to be aware of and eventually address and solve. So being able to discover in detail, when you understand how and why people are using your product or service, and really using that to inform broader business strategy, I think is a really powerful aspect of the work that we do. And then my second one, I'll keep this quick because it's the same as Torrey's, enabling organizational alignment and clarity. And I think the challenge for for all of us, and that I would invite this group into, is really understanding as an enabling function, we enable better decision making by helping people get this clarity and agree to move in one direction. But those are really tricky to measure. That value is really challenging to be able to capture, especially in the quantitative way that really resonates with leadership. So I think our challenge, having written this book and seeing how many of our skills contribute to enabling those better decisions, how can we as a community better measure and gather evidence for those, and really make that part of our value better understood and recognized. All right, Maya, how about you?
Okay. So my first one, which if anybody in the room knows me, it won't be a surprise, but it's achieve product market fit, because it really does require all three legs of the stool, and desirability, I would say, is the most important one. At least, from a value proposition perspective and a benefit perspective. And I think it is product market fit is really one of the easiest ways to start talking about business and business metrics. And it is not only important at the beginning because products are constantly evolving and ecosystem is changing. So even though we talk about achieving product market fit as though it's a one-time thing, it is a continuous investment, right? And so it is something that that evolves with the market. That's my first favorite. The second one is very timely, I would say. And that's an operational one, which I think we have all picked an operational one, and it's enabling transformation. And it might be because I'm thinking about it right now, and you're probably all thinking about it every day, how you're using AI, how your organization is using AI, how your team is using AI. Maybe you're not thinking about it and you're very lucky. You're in a very privileged position. But I think I am starting to see a lot of our clients and my friends who are working in, medium-sized companies, larger companies, really struggling with the lack of investment in operations, but the expectation that they should be using AI in their workflow. But it's not really, there's a lack, I think, right now. And if you are, on the other side of it, please reach out to me. But I think there's not a ton of organizational design happening. As maybe some of the more mature organizations are really starting to talk about it and starting to approach AI with intention and thinking about what parts of our workflow does it actually make sense in. But what I've seen by and large is that there's this top-down directive, and people feel this pressure to use AI, and so it's a little bit haphazard. So what we need right now is really this investment in enabling transformation. And I actually think we as UXers are the people that can lead that within our organizations, our functions, and more broadly within the business, because we have the skills to do that. So that's a little bit of a hopeful side of me that you're seeing, that we will lead this transformation for the better.
I love that all three of you actually shared some aspects of our field and roles and our responsibilities, which we actually don't talk about enough. I feel like we take those moments in our daily work a little bit for granted, that we are actually these very key people in organizations that can have quite a lot of impact, even though sometimes challenging to measure. But indeed, I really love that all three of you actually shared little bits of that. Thank you so much. And I think we can move on to the next question. Fiona?
You got it. So you organize skills into phases. We're interested in this because there are more phases in your phases than the double diamond. And we've listed those phases along the bottom. So you've got explore, define, ideate, decide, develop, measure, always on, and optimize. So can you take us through these phases and how they came about? And I think we might have something to help with that on the next slide. So let me minimize this while you speak, but we can always make it bigger again if you need.
Maya, do you want to take this one?
Okay, well, first of all, phases are a great way of organizing skills. Many of us, I think, here love process, but in reality, nothing is linear, and a lot of product development is skipping phases entirely. So I just want to say that doesn't mean that it's right that shift is the right direction for us to go to. But we just wanted to address that because I think more than ever, people are feeling like that punctuation has been lost in our process. So yeah, we find phases or activities or our sort of investment a very useful way to think about skills. And more than anything, it's about where are we in understanding the problem and approaching the problem and developing a strategy. And so it is a point of entry. We we debated the phases a lot, and I'll let Torrey talk about this a little bit and Kim talk about this a little bit. But these phases felt reflective of an ideal experience that has some sort of punctuation, and then the always on and continuous sort of the reality is that the work we do doesn't stop, right? We never make the experience perfect. We never are done. We're always watching and evolving. And so those pieces were very important for us, we felt, to include and to show sort of the loops that it isn't linear, and you can come in and out and through those additional phases, if we want to call them that, or investment areas might be another word too. I don't know. Torrey, Kim, you want to jump in?
Sure, I can jump in. I think Maya is underselling how hard it was to put the skills in any kind of format here. Because when we first pitched the book to O'Reilly, we thought it would be a really tidy set of content and design and research, and that is not possible because we're all doing parts of that all the time in our daily practice. So when I think it was several card sorts later that we had a set of double diamonds that we were really feeling good about. And then I knew it was really working when we did sort of a final in-person card sort, and that helped us to identify missing skills even. And we went, oh, if this is the set of skills for this phase, where is this? Oh, crap, we have a whole nother one to write. So that was good. But the original double diamond is really the blue and the pink, sort of the middle in the leftmost. And but now it's Fedalina. Lovely. I think yes. So we've got solve the right problem and solve the problem right. This explore the problem, define the problem in a contraction mode, then expand again with ideation of the right solution and decide on it. We actually added realize the solution because, it started with some content design skills, because I went, wait a minute, guys, what about all the things we do during development to bridge areas that weren't designed for, to, new things come up. And a lot of that in content design we fix with words. and we have to sort of piece together the right kind of solution afterwards. And that's where we're developing that solution, and then it needs to be measured. So then the larger double diamond here, the continuous improvement, those are skills that we might use at any phase and that are really important to sustain our practice and our products. And then optimize is full of skills that we might set up once in a career, like establishing a new content management system for a product. Or you might do that a lot. Like that might be your whole job as a consultant, is going into places and putting in these optimization parts. So that's how we organized things. And it was super hard. I'm going to hand off to Kim.
Yeah, I think you both have covered quite a lot of ground. I would just add, obviously, we're very indebted to the British Design Council's double diamond concept, which is rooted in human psychology and how we are creative. The idea of going through iterative cycles of divergent thinking and convergent thinking and repeating that process. It's certainly, you know, an important kind of fundamental core concept here. And so we did expand on that after seeing, as Torrey called out, the continuous improvement, sort of that fourth diamond. So many of our skills, as we went through multiple card sorts, so many of them applied to our day-to-day, no matter what cycle of product development we were working on, or no matter the work, they were really about sustaining and optimizing the experiences that we were creating. So we felt that expanding the double diamond really created a home to kind of showcase and make those skills more accessible.
Thank you so much for explaining the detail there, because I think I really resonate with your point about, you know, you do have to skip parts of the cycle. It's the thing you learn very much after you've completed a boot camp, or in my case, gone to university for UX. It's like you think that things will be very regimented and clear, and then you realize that you need to embrace a sort of organized flexibility of some kind to kind of navigate your way through, making sure you still do your due diligence with each of the kind of key aspects of design, making sure you're not skipping things, but not being too kind of attached to a very specific order. And I like how you have split out those phases just to show them once more, you know, it's solving the right problem and solving the problem right are now going to be like the things I think about. It's like yes, but, and yes, and again, it's all of that. So thank you for sharing that. I will now pass you back over to, I'll just go to the full screen again so we can have our question up, Svetlina, who's going to take on this next question for us. So over to you, Svetlina.
Thank you so much. And I think this is a great segue, actually, because Maya did tell us that sometimes the reality is that processes are not always ideal and not always work as expected. So what can a designer do when their work is not as impactful as it could be? For example, when they are relying on metrics like NPS without contextual research, or when they're not able to execute on certain parts of the process, like the research, and how actually might they constructively challenge client, team, or employer assumptions using the book?
Well, I can dive in and kick this one off and get us started. I think from my perspective, one of the most important words here in this question is constructively. Like, it is so important to be able to contribute in a way that's perceived as, you know, as generating ideas and being part of the team, and not an obstacle or a roadblock, which can so often kind of get us shut out of conversations, unfortunately. But in constructively challenging vanity metrics or looking for ways to find more meaningful measures of the impacts that we create, in my mind, it's kind of a three-part process. So one part is having a hypothesis around what's an alternative, because no one likes when you bring a problem but don't have a solution. So if NPS is not the measure, then what do we think and what data can you gather to kind of inform this perspective about what would be a better way to go? Secondly, it's always good if you have even just a sketch of a plan. Like, how would you research to validate that hypothesis? Or, what data might you be able to synthesize in order to get a clear picture of whether your alternative is better than NPS? And to have an idea about how you might go about that, ideally in a short time frame. And then the third part for me is a question. When you're challenging, I think questions are the most effective way to interject a new idea or to be heard in a way, rather than saying, here's my idea, it's better, let's do it. And by questioning NPS, you might, let's say, so trying to come up with an example, let's say I have some indication that our customer retention rate is not good. So where customers are leaving almost as quickly as we acquire new ones. And let's say I have an idea about how I could reach out and tap into my relationships with the marketing team to get some more data around that. So I might ask a question when NPS comes up about, have we segmented the NPS scores and looked at those customers who are leaving and made some kind of analysis or comparison there. Maybe it would turn out that we would discover that a number of customers are leaving so fast, they're not even recording their NPS scores. And so those scores may be artificially higher. So by asking questions, we can start to dig into and reveal people's assumptions a little bit. And it always helps to have a solution and a plan when you raise those questions, so that you can say, hey, I've got an idea about customer retention rates that might be related to this legacy issue, usability issue we've been aware of for some time. Give me a week and I can do a quick study to learn more about that.
Oh, those are some great tips. And I actually see Torrey is having the book in hand. Is there something that you were checking from there?
Do you want to jump in first, Torrey, or you want me to? I have the book too.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to
it.
say, like, hey, if I was confused about NPS, or like Kim was saying, I might go and say, look up NPS in the index and go to expand market and potential audience, the impact that calls out NPS as one of the metrics, but also think about the other metrics that are there. And then Kim called out so many different skills, and like so many. And
there is one that's identify metrics too. And I would say always challenge NPS, because NPS is very flawed. So I would start with skill 50 of identifying metrics, but also understanding, why does the organization care so much about NPS? So extrapolate stakeholder needs is another skill, and that would be looking internally.
Skill 4.
Yeah, skill 4. Looking internally to understand, why are they hanging their hat on this 30-year-old metric that doesn't really measure anything. Sorry if somebody loves it. But, because there's probably a reason. There's probably some marketing leader that gets budget based on, the NPS score. There's a reason why people are attached to it. And so to understand how to challenge it, you have to understand, the motivation. Is it because it's a public company and NPS tends to be a very industry-wide metric that is used to, compare competitors to each other and their experience, and how could you move the needle and find a metric that's more meaningful. Or the contextual research part, like that's where I jumped to, was like, okay, so you haven't done contextual research. Who has? And maybe they're not on the UX team, maybe there are people that have done research. So we have a skill that's around skill 78 is collect current data. And that's a really important one, because you don't know what your organization knows until you go knocking on doors, right? And that can accelerate your knowledge. And a lot of institutional knowledge is not written. It is oral history, essentially. Now, Torrey, you jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up mapping assumptions, which is skill number 1 in the book, mapping the assumptions of what's going on. And somebody in this organization has this, maybe somebody powerful has this assumption that NPS is going to give them the answers they need. So cool, let's map that. But if a designer is doing all of this work and using these skills and it's still not making an impact, that's why we included things like conditions for success in the book, which really lays out its intent. It's there to say, hey, you're going to need this level of authority, this level of scope, these resources, including exec buy-in, to make a dent with this, because you could happily facilitate an assumption mapping thing all day long. But if people don't take you seriously for whatever reason, you're not going to make a dent with it. And then there's also pitfalls and risks. And we have a section of that for every skill also. So if you're mapping assumptions and you experience defensiveness about legacy decisions, if you have assumptions repositioned as product hypotheses, that's not a hypothesis, that's an assumption. If there is ambiguity and discomfort that you're not addressing, or that nobody is adequately addressing, if there's misalignment just in the language of what you're doing, or a lack of implementation, like you did a great exercise and then everybody happily walked away from it and did nothing. Actually, I want to say one more thing. Kim started with, you need to come to it essentially with the right attitudes. And the last slimmest little section of the book is all about attitudes. And those are referenced in each skill also. And it's things like communication and collaboration and systems thinking, that if you're not practicing those, probably being a little bit of a jerk, and improving those can go a long way in improving your success.
Can I just jump in?
Of course, please.
I just want to say one thing. Because as you saw, we each leaned in a different direction. And I think that's because there isn't one strategy. There's not one approach. And that's one of the things we hope this book helps you, see the possibilities, that it is very contextual and personal, and so the skills that you use in different challenges, the impacts that you prioritize are going to reflect your own experience and perspective. And I just want to call that out, because I do have a lot of friends who have the book, and at first, they're overwhelmed, and then they find a use case for it. And actually, my sister-in-law is a designer, and as soon as I came to my brother in her home, she said, I've been digging into the book, and oh my gosh, this is going to help me. And I was like, oh, I hope it's not overwhelming. She says, it is, but I'm trying to really think about a specific situation and think about myself and what resonates with me. And so I think that's super important. And as we get to some of the Q&A, we'll try to help you sort of navigate the different possible approaches.
Yeah, we're getting close to that. We're quite excited, because it's almost like your fortune tellers or something. You're going to tell us how to solve some problems. But yes.
Yes, this is my new move, Tori. This every time when something suspicious is happening. Yes. Fiona, back to you.
Indeed. So I'm all about habits. I've done quite a lot of work around behavioral change in organizations, as well as being a product manager. So how might designers form a continual practice of showing their impact? And I'm going to give a little bit of credit to a local organization in Brighton called Green SEO. And they have this thing where they say, if you need to make an impact, you feel you need to make an impact to issues around climate change and all of that, what's the one, you pick one thing you do every month that you change. So I'm going to pose that as a challenge for thinking about showing your impact. Is there a small action someone could take up each month that would help them show their impact?
Oh, I'll start us off with this, and I'll try to keep it brief because I know we've had a bunch of questions coming in, and we have all sorts of things to do. So I'm a big fan of helping people first spot when to say it, but then every time they're in a meeting working on some designs with other people, to say in just one sentence repetitively, like not many times in the same meeting, but like when you're showing your design, say, here's what we're talking about. Here's why it matters to the business. And you can say that in terms of the metrics or in terms of anything else, but here's why it matters to the business. And if you can say it really rapidly, but if you get into that habit, then everybody on your team starts to think of you as a person who is solving a problem, not a person who is preparing an artifact. And that is something I would love to see people do more of. Ladies?
I can go next. One practice that I've cultivated and helped my mentees cultivate is a kind of weekly reflection. I think so much of our success depends on skills like storytelling and cultivating relationships to build influence. I find it really helpful if each week we maybe start the week with an intention or think about what's on our plate for ourselves or our team to deliver this week. And think about framing that in terms of impact. And then as you go throughout the week, as you have meetings and are in conversations, listen to how you are telling the story of the work that you're doing, of the work that your team is doing, and then reflect at the end of the week and say, okay, did I use language that resonated with the people I was talking to? Did I do a good job of communicating the value of the work that I'm doing, in their terms, and to kind of improve your own storytelling and your ability to tailor your story and tell that value to different people in different parts of the organizations. I think that can be so helpful as a practice to help us build our influence across an organization.
I can go.
Maya, over to you.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking specifically for researchers or generalists who are doing research. We actually have a skill around it, and it's centralized data and insights skill 89. And this is becoming more and more important today. A lot of the panels I've been listening in on with UX leaders, they're investing in the operational infrastructure of this. But when I worked at DocuSign, my boss, Aviva Rosenstein, was one of the most organized researchers I've ever worked for and learned from. And this is very old school, and I still do it. And I think it helps you sort of make action continuous from a data perspective. But she had a sort of central sheet where she had every single insight, and she would update it after every study, and she would, it was additive. So something that she saw across studies, the insight would be bolstered. And I've done this in every organization I've been in. And what it has done is it has enabled data and insights to really be at my cross-functional team's fingertips. And so an example of this is when I worked with Torrey at Google and Ads, I had a 900 insight log. 900 insights were logged in this sheet based off of all the studies that I had done. And it was a way to extend my presence so that I wasn't in every meeting. It's just impossible. And it's becoming more and more impossible today. But my voice was, the research and the data was. And I've been hearing again on repeat in these panels that a lot of research teams are investing in building sort of that infrastructure today. Of course, there are risks with it, and we're not going to talk about that right now, but it does enable you to create another channel for accessibility, to that data and research. That's one I'll share. Of course, I think there are many channels though that you can utilize, and that's one of the things I learned later in my experience as a UXer, that there were so many channels I wasn't really optimizing and using because I was shy or nervous. And so thinking about all the channels at your disposal and how you can communicate and use them in order to increase your impact and extend your presence.
Nice. So are we good to move on to the next one? I think that you're going to take this one, Svetlana, so I will move us on. This is based on a real scenario, right?
Yes, actually, everybody who's watching, we are about to enter the dramatic part of this event, which is that we're talking about some difficult situations and perhaps getting some insights on how we can get some help for these. Some of which are kind of usual. But by the way, if you have any difficult situations, please do submit them in the QR code up on the right. We would love to hear from you, and we will make sure to keep them anonymous if you don't feel comfortable with that. But the first scenario that I would like to get some insights on is, imagine you're a researcher who has been asked to complete 10 days of research work in only 5. Because you have a sympathetic product team, a product manager, but your line manager says, just use AI to do some research. How could we use the book to help such scenario and basically increase impact? I do believe we did hear some tips when we were talking about research and not skipping parts of the process, but what else can we do?
Maya, do you want to kick us off since it's a research question?
Yeah, I can kick us off. I'll try to be brief. I mean, I, of course, ask why the rush, like why the mad rush? And that is, questioning these arbitrary seeming timelines is very important in what we do. And there are a few skills that I would use in order to approach the organization. And one is I would map assumptions, skill number 1, which Torrey has talked about, because I'd try to understand what is driving this, what is happening. I would also use align on success, which is skill 74. So really, like, what is the objective? what does successful research look like? And you could do a pre-mortem in order to support that effort, to understand what your cross-functional stakeholders really need. I think there are always ways to get signal faster. It just may not be the rigorous study that you had planned. So we have another skill around skill 6, which is adapting research in progress. And you can use that sometimes to win more time and to show the value of your work, and that you could be increasing the impact if you had more time, right? So thinking really about chunking your work, and then making a pitch for the resources that you need. And I'll pass it to Kim and Torrey.
Thanks, Maya. Yeah, definitely you covered some of the same skills that I would look to. I would also consider things on the impact side. So in addition to asking, why the rush, I would want to understand what is the priority impact that this work needs to make. And if there are multiple impacts from multiple stakeholders, then I would again want to map assumptions and align on success to make sure that that those business objectives were crystal clear. And that would give a sort of guide to say no to some parts of the research. So I would look at the skills that are most likely to make the priority impact. And then there might be some pieces of the work that could be delayed or could be cut from this week. The other thing that I would do is use the review of impacts to question. Like if there's a big speed to get this product going and get it out the door quickly, I would want to ask, well, what about the risk to brand perception? Are we prepared to take that on? So that's how I would use the impacts side as kind of a framework for guiding my questioning and decision making. Torrey, what about you?
Yeah, I would. I think that always aligning on what success means, and even identifying the metrics. And maybe we've already done a round of identifying what metrics we care about. But now that we're cutting down from 1 week or 2 weeks to 1 week of research time, like, is that still the right list? And just double checking there, making sure that everything's clear. And that's, maybe a 10-minute conversation. But I would also say, and I would probably ask this in an offline, unrecorded way, if I possibly could, and say, is the goal here really speed? Is the goal here really proving that I can use the AI? Because sometimes it is, even though that may seem foolish for any number of great reasons. So if the larger strategy is actually to enable transformation of the operations of the UX team to move faster so that we can release product faster, that's a whole different conversation than the metrics around this individual product. So sometimes it requires that shift. And then I would look at impacts like reduce time to design, because there's some structural things we can do to reduce time to design. Frequently, it means investing in UX operations of one kind or another so that it's less chaotic and less focused on a particular outcome or deliverable, and more focused on getting the right insights so that we can make better decisions. There's also an impact of reducing time to product release. And if it really is about let's go faster and use AI, then we do have skills about designing for emerging technology, and we have a skill about knowing your tools. Although I don't remember what the name of that ended up being. It might be Know Your Tools or Know Your Tool Set. That one needed a lot of renaming, because sometimes you just need to take the time to learn that new tool. just like many of us needed to learn Figma after Sketch, Sketch after Photoshop, etc. It's a tool.
Very well summarized. I think what's nowadays challenging is actually that the AI as a tool is a bit introduced to us from the top down instead of the bottom up, which was usually the case with Sketch and Figma. So that brings a very interesting dynamic. And thank you, Kim, as well, for pointing out that we should be a bit better at managing the risks of what we're doing and sort of having that conversation with our stakeholders and with our teams. I think we should be better at this for sure.
We have a skill around that. It's called anticipate harm.
I love how you called that. That's great. And Fiona, I do think we are about to look at the Q&A.
Yes. So what we're going to do, I'm going to share a QR code on the next screen, which is specifically for you to pose a scenario you're struggling with right now. But while we do that, I've got a couple of questions that have just come in. So that will give you some time to think about it. So we'll pose those questions that have come in to our speakers. So let me just switch to this layout here. So here's a big QR code for you to share a challenge you're having right now. Let me just quickly make sure that I can bring back in Maya. I might turn off my webcam and swap it for Maya so that we have the right people in here. Let me turn myself.
Well, everybody, we're doing this live, as you can see. So please be patient with us. And please do scan this QR code. We keep asking questions. It's very cool that we can interact with you. So Torrey, it's just you and me for right now.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey, okay, good.
Sorry, I had a slight technical issue there. So I'm back, and I was trying to bring everyone back onto the screen, but for some reason it's being a little bit moody. So what I'm going to do is try a different layout, and then I'm going to make us small, and I'm going to make this slide bigger so that everyone can take a picture. So while we let you scan that, I've got a couple of questions that I've pre-prepared from the questions. So question 1 is about to show up on the screen right now. So it's, what business skills do you think junior UX designers should focus on first?
I love that question. And it's funny, we talk about business impacts and UX skills, because I think it is a UX skill to learn to talk about the business and the different business impacts that can be made. And I think that the first business skill that I would coach a junior UXer to come into is to recognize the impacts that the business is looking for, over and above the impacts that the product makes on the user right now. Yeah, I hope that made sense.
It did. And it sounds like we have a cat friend who also has opinions on this subject.
Yes, he has opinions. Here's Hawthorne.
We love cat friends.
We've been waiting for him to make an appearance.
I think I love this question, and I think I have 2 answers. One is, you already have skills that are related to the business, that make an impact on the business. And so the first thing I would do is really do an audit of the skills in the book, if you're using the book. Because what I've heard from folks is it can be a confidence builder, right? I have a friend who just went through a hard time and was included in a layoff, and she and her coach have been going through the book, and it made her feel just much more optimistic about her future. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I always believe is looking externally, starting to understand, and we have a skill that's that's track trends and signals. That's 75. And we have another one that's 76, watch the world. And those two skills, I think, are very important because they help get you outside of your own, bubble in your own domain. And they help you think bigger and realize that there is an ecosystem, there is a market, there are other forces at play that are impacting the work that you do and the decisions that your business is making. And they're also, very healthy, I think, skills because they connect you more to humanity and help you, see the forest rather than just the trees. So I'll stop there. I don't know, Kim, if there are any that you would add.
Yeah, it's such a great question, and so many skills are really contextual. So it can depend on what your experience is and where you're working. I'm gonna flip my answer a little bit to say I would not point someone to skills. I would point them to the attitudes. Again, these are the core skills that kind of guide our interpersonal behavior. We used to call them soft skills. We took attitudes from the World Economic Forum's language, but things like confidence, curiosity, courage, the attitudes that you practice, and as you practice them and develop them, they are going to really amplify what you can do across all of your other skills. So I would say, especially if you're new in your role before trying to develop new skills, I love Maya's idea of the inventory. I do think that's very valuable as well. But before you set about acquiring skills, do an inventory of attitudes and see what attitudes you might be able to practice, because again, those are going to help you make impacts across any other skill.
I love that answer. I'm going to steal that one next time, Kim.
Thanks, Torrey.
This is fantastic. I think Svetlana had a technical issue and is trying to rejoin. So hopefully she'll be able to rejoin us in a second. But I'm going to push up the next question if you're all ready for it, which is, how do you convince stakeholders to spend time validating the problem when they're eager to move straight into solution mode?
Yeah.
I'm experiencing this right now. So somebody must be psychic who asked the question. We have it's one of the reasons I'm out here, actually. We have a potential client, and it's 3 founders. They're building something new, and they very much just want to build a prototype and test it. And we're trying to convince them to really start with research. And I think what I tell people, the short version of it is that the more data and evidence and insight that they have when it comes to understanding the problem, the richer their solutions will be. The more they will be able to define the value propositions and the benefit to those people. If it's generic, if their understanding of the problem is generic, their solution will be broad and it won't solve a real problem. So, I mean, that's maybe, sounds obvious, but, there are great case studies and examples that probably everybody here has. So showing some of your own examples, I think, are good. You can also look, this is another, looking at the world, looking for public examples that maybe connect to their industry or vertical, is also a way to convince them of that. And I'm a big fan of starting small. So getting them, if you do the work of mapping assumptions with them, then you understand the depth of their understanding of the problem, and you can very quickly show them that it's shallow through a small amount of research, right? Even just a few qualitative interviews, you can show them that, oh, but did you know this? Did you understand this nuance? Do you understand, the context of this problem deeply for somebody who is in this scenario? So I think it's sort of showing them that this problem is way more complex than they think, and that there are nuances and there are opportunities to sharpen their solution.
Did we have any other responses to that? I can share with you 4 challenges for you to work on. 4. So if you're ready for the challenges, I can take us to the challenges. Are we good for the challenges? Okay, I'm going to remove this this slide deck thing here now for a second, and I'll add it back later. But the responses we have are right. So the first one is getting support and buy-in from stakeholders to be able to, I'm just going to pause that actually, bear with me 2 seconds, because it's the way it's showing the responses is a little bit hard for me to see right now. So let me see if I can just zoom out a little bit. Right. This is all live, folks, so I have to actually live read through these. Right, so getting support and buy-in from stakeholders to be able to use the processes and work in a human design-centered way is the challenge the person's currently experiencing. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think this is sort of the motivating reason for the book from the very beginning is, holy mackerel, they think my job is just delivering screens? But we need we need to understand what the humans are here for. We need to build the right thing for them. We need to know what problems we're solving. We need to know how it's measured. We need to know how the back end is going to connect to the front end. And for all of that, we need some processes to make it work at all. How do I convince people of it? I usually start with, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And this actually dovetails to the question too that Maya was just answering, is how do you convince people to validate the problem? A lot of stakeholders in my experience have already been convinced, like, oh, I've validated this problem. This is definitely a problem because it's definitely a problem in my brain. So it is for the population we're targeting. Cool. What I wanted to do was bring that down to earth and be like, how are you measuring that? Is that financial? Are you measuring it in engagement, numbers of people, time per day? Like, what are you measuring? And that is like going in with that conversation while showing attitudes of collaboration and communication and saying, great, I want to make sure I get you the right thing for you as fast as possible. So to make sure I don't hit the wrong mark, what's our goal here? So it's that aligning on success and identifying the metrics from the beginning. And if we align on success on a metric like reducing the cost of marketing because we're spending too much on that, cool, I can help you with that. Right? I've got skills to help you with that, and they're in a handier table right here, for example. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think, that particular challenge is definitely at the heart of having read the book. It just, that's what it's all about. So our next challenge is, I am interested in continuing my path from product designer to service designer and UX strategist. To give you context, I graduated from a master's in digital design of applied sciences, and I used to be a product designer for about 3 years, but not in Europe. I'm now looking for a product designer role, but I really want to switch to my interests. Can you give me a piece of advice about how I can make this transition possible?
That's a great question, and it's actually one of the reasons why, or related to a reason why I've been so motivated to open my new agency. I developed a lot of UX strategy skills working in consulting, where I and my team worked on all kinds of different projects, different platforms, different technologies, and working with very different levels within the organization up to C-level clients. And so that kind of forced me to think very broadly, and become much more experienced in terms of kind of understanding the business strategy and how they were looking at technology to enable different business goals, and to understand what the UX role was in designing that technology. So I've mentored and worked with a lot of product designers who have entered the field more recently, like in the last 5-6 years, whose experience has been very focused on the product level, and they've been in some ways almost sheltered from connecting that work to larger company business strategies. So a lot of product designers I've met with don't have that same experience of kind of laddering those things up to a broader level. So what I advise and recommend, even if your role is in product design, to find opportunities where you can practice some of those skills in the first diamond. This is where I think the diamond structure can really help us to shift and spend attention on some of those things of making sure that we're solving the right problem and really understanding what is the landscape of problems we could be solving. So a lot of our skills in continuous improvement too, of really watching the world and understanding the organization and extrapolating stakeholder needs, will help to reveal problems that are maybe outside the scope of our immediate product focus. But once you gain that understanding, you can start practicing things like making a service blueprint, and start practicing some of the methods that are more commonly done in service design to get that experience. I hope that answers that question. Best of luck to those of you working towards that experience. I think it's so important now, especially as we're working with AI tools, and that is accelerating a lot of processes, that we practice and spend more time thinking about what is the right problem to solve, and how do I help help lead my team through making the best decisions.
It's such an important message, Kim, because I think whatever job you're doing now, you can find UX in that job. So for example, like I worked in higher education for years and years and years and did UX in that role. And now I specialize in helping to build learning and compliance systems and products. So, you can bring that subject matter expertise into the way that you do UX. And I think whatever you're doing, there is hope you can find a way of showing your skills and your strategy in that role and applying that to UX for sure.
Absolutely.
So the next thing, it's sort of more of a comment. So I'll start with it because it's a lovely comment. Thanks so much, all. This has been really helpful. Can't wait to read the book. To be fair, you've covered parts of my question, but I was just wondering how to handle it when the product-led org is heavily skewed towards sales, much more than research, UX, or customer success, where we get more insights from existing clients. Gets to a point where sales is driving new features into the roadmap much more easily because it's easy to see their success in terms of pounds. Thank you.
Make them your best friends. I mean, this person's probably working in B2B, though I'm not 100% sure. But, get close to the sales team. I think one of the things I've found, especially since leaving Google and working with more mid-sized companies that are sort of in the 200 employees to 2,000 employees size, is that sales and product often have a lot of tension. And so I actually think that we as UXers can be the connective tissue in that situation, and my team has been, and can sort of facilitate more thoughtful product strategy. So I would say spend time with them, shadow them, listen to them. Like, you'd be surprised, even when I was at Google, the product on Google Analytics, the product team and the sales team and the support team, they were not talking. And Torrey probably remembers this. And I created a monthly huddle. It was very simple, where we would talk about a topic, whether it was a cookieless world, right? And we would put the sales team at the center, and we would do a fishbowl where they would talk about what they were hearing, what they were learning, with the support team, and they would share what they know. And so putting them in the center and recognizing that they were experts and that they were maybe the closest people to the customers in the room, I think created sort of the recognition, and it validated sort of their perspective in a way that they needed to be heard, and they needed to be recognized by the product organization and the engineering organization. So that would be my instinct. And there are, of course, skills, if we're talking about specific skills that aligns to. There are quite a few. But Torrey and Kim, I want to make sure the two of you get to chime in, because we only have 10 minutes left, I think.
Yes, we are getting close to time, so we probably fit in one more scenario.
I wanted to call out centralized data and insights from Maya's, because she calls out in that skill. And this was an eye-opener to me as we were working on the book. And she was saying, no, this isn't just about UXR insights. This is about everybody. Get your support team, get your everybody involved.
And really briefly, I'd just like to add on the tactic that Maya was talking about of the monthly huddle, I think is also a great solution for the earlier question for the person who asked, how do I get my stakeholders to work in a human-centered design way? Especially when you expose those stakeholders to other stakeholders around the organization who may have different priorities and a difference of opinion, and you can demonstrate how customer insights and human-centered design methods can help them better understand each other's perspective and help them make decisions more collaboratively, is a really valuable way to showcase the value of that approach and bring your stakeholders along.
Very
Sorry,
cool.
Fiona, back to you. Next scenario.
Cool.
Do we have time for
yeah,
another
we've got one time for one more. So getting hired for a UX leadership position after a short career pivot consulting for a couple of years. So how can they get themselves into that UX leadership position that they would like?
Is it about getting hired or being new in that role?
Getting hired, yeah. So it looks like they've been career pivoting for the last couple of years into a sort of consulting space, and that they want to now get hired for a UX leadership position.
I mean, I would invest in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
No, go ahead, Maya.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, I always say first start with your personal narrative and your story, and really because at the end of the day, for leadership roles, like that's sort of, people want to understand your growth trajectory. You know, what are you becoming? Where are you going? It's sort of, philosophical, but that really is, a big piece of what matters. And then I would say, start writing, start developing your voice, start really learning about the industry. If it's a new industry, become an expert. And there are skills in our book that really connect to that we've talked about already. But that depth, or if you're already an expert in specific verticals, like leaning in there, like looking at leadership positions at companies that have that sort of interconnection with your existing expertise is always a good place to start. Kim, what were you gonna jump in and share?
Yeah, really quickly, I would encourage someone, if they were looking at the book, to take a look at the management impacts, things like enabling organizational clarity and alignment, which we've talked about a lot, increasing employee satisfaction, creating an inclusive work environment, creating a diverse workforce, and look at the skills that ladder up to those, and think about their portfolio of recent work. They may not have been directly managing a team as a consultant, but they may be able to take their case studies and show how they built relationships, either with clients or with other cross-functional partners on their team, to help enable some of these more kind of management-oriented or leadership-oriented impacts, which I think will demonstrate that they have been operating, working, showing those management and leadership skills.
100%. As someone who works as a consultant, there's so much management of so many different moving parts and so many different wonderful clients and all of their individual businesses to think about. So yeah, I think there's so much leadership skill there, but it is quite hard to tell that story. So I think the book can really help, and I can see it will help me over the coming months and such. And I just wanted to highlight on that point that you have shared a prize draw, right, Torrey? So I've just put up Torrey's LinkedIn post again. I've shared that on the YouTube stream as well. So if you fill out this Google form, how does it work, Torrey? Can you tell us a little bit more while I put up the sort of final summary slide?
Yeah, so if they can send me this link, then maybe right after your final summary slide, if they can use this link and enter their first name and their email address, then I will add them to the spinner. And after your summary slide, I will share my screen, and there's a spinner, and it'll make noise, and it's delightful, in my opinion. And I think we lost Fiona.
I'm sure she will be right back.
Okay.
Apologies,
Yes.
I got replaced by my own slide. So there we go. So this is the summary slide, which I think is one of my favorite quotes from the book. And it's from the wonderful Jane Goodall. Let me just quickly hide our chat point here, and then I'll quickly read it out for those who may need it to be read out. Let me just quickly hide that though. So what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Such a classic Jane Goodall point there, and what a wonderful lady she was. So we will now shall we do our little bit of an outro and then come back to the spinner? Will that give people time to fill out the form? Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Great. Okay, brilliant. So hopefully you've got the form on the platforms that you are viewing on. For this last outro part, we're going to bring back Danny in again. So warning, Danny, you're coming back. I'm just going to swap you with Torrey here. So bear with. I'm just going to remove Torrey if it lets me. Seems to be giving me a little bit of issue here because we've got some overlap with my click-in, and it's not letting me do that. So we will try again. We will hide, and then we will try. It's just taking me through everybody now. It's taking me through the whole list of people. Right. Okay. There we go. And let's see if we can bring in Danny again.
You did it. You
Yay!
did it. Yes.
Danny is
Danny.
back. Hi, Danny. Sorry about that. It took me a minute to get us back. So we just want to tell you a couple of ways about how to stay in touch with Let's Talk UX. So we have a Slack channel and a newsletter, so you can get to that from our main URL, which is letstalkux.co.uk. And if you liked the stream today, we would love you to buy us a coffee, maybe, if you feel like it. So you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/Let's Talk UX. And let's hear about how folks can get more involved in Amsterdam from you, Svetlina.
Thanks so much. And by the way, we're looking forward to your new logo. I'm very curious. Yes, so please follow us here on Linktree. Make sure you join us in our WhatsApp community where you get all kinds of announcements constantly. We have different chats for different topics like job searching and just regular discussions. Follow us on LinkedIn for sure, and on Instagram, and make sure you also contribute to our community calendar on Luma, where we have all kinds of super nice events online and in the Netherlands. And don't forget Eventbrite. Make sure you just click on all the links and follow everywhere and give us all the love and community support. We love that stuff. Make sure to follow because we have a lot of things going on after the summer and a mentorship program coming up. Back to you, Danny.
Danny, let me switch that to the ladies at UX London info.
Yes, so you can find most of the information about what we're up to on LinkedIn. That's where we kind of post whenever we do our events, when we're also kind of have discussions about what we want to, what people want from future events. We're very open to any ideas, suggestions, anything you want to see. Get in touch and let us know. So yeah, you'll find kind of everything, on LinkedIn mostly for us.
Marvelous. So I think what we'll do then is, in order to show Torrey's screen, I'm going to switch us to the closing slide, and I'm going to bring Torrey back, as well as our other authors, so we can give them one last huge thank you. But thank you to co-hosts Danny and Svetlina for being amazing today and for all your support behind the scenes as well. Really appreciate it. And Torrey has shared her screen. Oh my goodness, Torrey, it's here. This is amazing. Let me bring you back on though, because we need to hear you talk about things. So let's bring Torrey back.
It's color coordinated. I love it.
Torrey is back. Kim is back. Maya is back.
This tool is called Wheel of Names. It doesn't save any information. It is your best friend if you're doing this kind of thing. Let us spin the wheel.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I think it's Satara, and I will be in touch about your book.
Congratulations, Satara. That's amazing. Oh, I love that wheel. I really want to use that wheel now as well. So just a final, huge thank you to everyone. Oh, Svetlina got... There we go. Huge thank you to everyone who has been part of today's stream. We really appreciate it. And we're going to switch to the final screen now, which is just to tell you a bit about how you can get the book. So before we do that, thank you, Torrey. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Maya. We really appreciate your time and also joining us with time differences as well. It means a lot to us. So let's go to our closing remarks, Svetlina and Danny. So here we go. Let me just move that. So thank you for joining us. We hope you'll see us on the next live stream. Amsterdam often run these kind of live streams. Brighton may be doing that more and more. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about how you can get the book if you want to. So we've included the Amazon link there, or if you want to support local bookshops across Europe, you can use bookshop.org as an alternative. And yeah, just thank you very much, everyone. And we hope you have a lovely rest of your evening.
Have a great evening, everyone. See you next time on online events.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.